Are you ready, Ms. Nam?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you, you will have Exhibit FF10.
Yes.
This is a statement of General Simang and the annexures to his statement. May he be sworn in, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Please administer the oath or affirmation.
Please state your full names for the record.
I am Zimpande Fabian Msimang.
Do you have any objections to taking the prescribed oath?
Not at all.
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
Certainly.
Do you solemnly swear that all the evidence that you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. General, you have before you, you would have a document that's marked on, it's a presentation file, Exhibit FF10, as explained to you earlier. Could you please turn over to page 1 of that document, of that file? It's entitled SA Air Force Submission to the Zondo Commission of Inquiry State Capture. Is that your submission?
Yes, it is, ma'am.
Yes, could you please turn to page 3 of that submission? Is that your signature that appears there?
Yes, it is.
Yes, thank you. And are the contents of your submission true and correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. And
You may have to just raise your voice or bring
sorry.
the mic closer,
I'll-
Lieutenant General.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you, General. Is it correct that you are the chief of the Air Force?
I certainly am. I'm the Chief of the South African Air Force.
Yes. And how long have you held this position?
Since October 1st, 2012.
Yes. And is it also correct that you are a pilot by profession?
Yes, I am. Ma'am.
Yes. And how long have you been in service with the Defense Force?
Since integration in 1994, but prior to that, I was a member of Mkonto Wesizwe, trained in Russia.
Yes. Thank you. Now, the incident that we're talking about is, and as we've heard from the earlier witness, General Mugwebi, that when he started doing the investigation, they had to start with the Chief of the Air Force.
Yes, ma'am.
Because that is something that falls squarely within your responsibility. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. And then the South Africans are asking, where was the Chief of the Air Force when all of this was happening? Could you please just tell the chairperson then as to what do you know about the incident, how you got to know about it, and what did you do?
Thank you very much, Chair. As it's stated in my statement, I was approached by the advisor to the Minister of Defense with regards to a possible arrival of the Indian delegation. This took place during the time when the South African National Defense Force was on high alert. We had a situation in the Central African Republic whereby on the 22nd of March, it was around that period, where we lost 13 of our members. It was at this time when we had to attach the officer commanding of the officer commanding of the Air Force Command Post, Brigadier General Lombard, to our joint operations, to assist with this operation. At the same time, we had also an incident or accident in the South African Air Force whereby we had lost a helicopter. So there were all those things that were taking place. I would also like to state that the landing of the aircraft, the one that we are talking about, happened within the 6 months of my having taken office. I had also, at a time, did indicate to my commander, the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Shoke, in writing that I had serious concerns with regards to the command and control of the South African Air Force, the structure, with structural problems. And of course, those who have been addressed. The issues around the landing of the aircraft, and in my statement, I have stated that after I had indicated that to the advisor, to the Minister of Defense, that I'd like to quote what I had said.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, maybe just, let's go back.
Okay.
The advisor approached you. What did the advisor want from you?
The advisor.
You can have a look at
Yes.
the statement for
Yes.
purposes of refreshing your
refreshing,
memory.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
In my statement, I state that during the latter half of March 2013, the political advisor of the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans approached the Chief of the South African Air Force, which was myself, to determine the regulations governing the landing and taking off civilian aircraft at Air Force Base Waterkloof. I state in my statement that the Chief of the South African Air Force informed the political advisor it would be irregular for an aircraft carrying Indian wedding guests to land at the base. The Chief of the Air Force advised the political advisor that the matter should not be entertained any further. And from my point of view, I thought that was the end of it.
So you just given an answer and you knew that no one
He
else would...
sought
Yes.
advice,
Yes,
and
and
we
you
gave
gave-
him the advice.
Yes. And ordinarily, when then a political advisor seeks advice, do you share what you had communicated with that political advisor with, I don't know whether it would be the commanders or the other commanders that are below you, or is it something that you would keep to yourself because in any event, it's your advice that was being solicited?
It was the first time that such a thing had happened. That the political advisor came to seek my advice. I think it was due to the fact that he too wanted to be advised as to whether it fell within the regulations.
Yes.
I thought I was duty-bound to inform him, and I think that was, from my point of view, would have been the end of our discussion. Yes.
And then why did you feel that it would have been irregular? What are the factors that informed that advice?
We have protocols within the South African National Defence Force,
Yes.
and especially in the South African Air Force. We have also what we'd call SOPs, which determine the type of aircraft, type of delegations that would be allowed to land at Air Force Base Waterkloof. And for the mere fact that it spoke about a wedding party, that in itself did not comply with the regulations.
Yes. Maybe I should just take you to the protocols that you've attached to your statement.
Yes, ma'am.
If I may take you, refer you to a divider marked 2, Mr. Chairman.
Pardon, two?
There's a divider
Yes, ma'am.
marked number 2.
Mark number 2.
Yes. At number 5, page 5, there is what is called the standard operating procedures, issuing of overflight and landing authorities for visiting aircraft.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, could you just highlight those factors that where one wants to land as a wedding party, which would conflict with what you've got here in this SOP?
Okay. Would you mind if I just talk about it in general?
Yes, yes.
Once a foreign state requests to land at Waterkloof, we would first have to determine whether it was military, non-military, or other. If it was military, it will then follow the, if it was military, it will then come from the country concerned to the Defense Foreign Affairs, to the command post, and to the base command post. In this case, it was a non-military, and which we call, which is a non-military. The request came through DERCO, because it was diplomatic, under RSA 05. Diplomatic to DERCO, and then from DERCO, it would have then gone to, should have gone to Defense Foreign Affairs, that's within the DOD, and then from DERCO, it would have then gone to the Department of Transport, and then within the, and then from the Department of Transport, I think it will go to Home Affairs and also the Civil Aviation Authority.
Please just clarify the it throughout this. It would come from DERCO to
the request,
Foreign Affairs within
sorry,
DOD
the request,
and then to Transport.
The request.
Oh, so DERCO, then to the Foreign Affairs section of DOD, and then from there to Department of Transport.
Yes, they also have links with the other government departments.
Yes, what I'm asking is whether the transport one that would go to transport would come directly from DERCO, or it would
it'll be
going via
directly from DERCO.
Foreign Affairs section of the DOD.
The way I understand,
Yes.
directly to DERCO.
Okay, no, that's fine.
to Department
Okay.
of Transport.
Okay,
Yes.
that
Now-
is still just the request.
This is just a request and so on. Yes. Now, please understand this.
Yes.
I must say it up front that there were no checks and balances. That is now the problem that we are faced with here. It is due to the nature of the request in general, 05s, because it is diplomatic a request. It has its own protocols. It involves other government departments. And in most instances, when there is that, when it is initiated from the requesting country or state, at level 4, at the tactical level, the officials are already running around trying to make sure that they've got systems in place to accommodate the guests. And this has become the practice. So you have the the SOPs, and then you've got also practice. Now, can I take it through?
SOPs being?
Oh, standard operating procedures.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Standard
all right.
operating procedures.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
I would like us to maybe have a to show the
Is this slide?
yes, that slide,
Oh, thank
the
you.
hierarchy of policies.
All right, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, could you, oh, it's up there. Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yes, as we can see, we've got a hierarchy of policies which are at various levels. Typically, the Chief of the Air Force would be at level 2. Level 2, which states services and divisions. At this level, I'm talking about now services. In the South African National Defence Force, we've got 4 service chiefs. That's the Chief of the Army, Chief of the Air Force, Chief of the Navy, and Chief of the Military Health Service called the Surgeon General. And then we've got 8.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to follow.
Level 2, level 2.
Level 2 is what position will be there?
That's Lieutenant General.
Okay, right, and level 1?
Level 1, that's now my boss.
Oh, that's
Yes,
the chief of the
Chief of the South
Army.
African National Defence Force.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yes.
All right, okay.
Chief of the Defence Force.
Okay.
Yes. Now, at his level, which is now, as you can see, it is corporate policy matters. That's where we deal with the Department of Defense instructions. You then deal with the joint defense publications. Because remember that this arms of service and the divisions, and then there's a joint command. So then, of course, then the directives, then there's the Department of Defense strategy, and then the military strategy. Now, this is now, which comes from the top, which now informs the next level's policies. So at my level, what we generate, which is now at the service operational level, which looks at the strategic and operational level, there's instructions, the doctrines, the manuals, the strategies, the divisional supporting strategies. And then the level below us, which we call the intermediate structures, this is now where the Air Force Command Post resides. Okay, that's where the Air Force Command Post resides. That's at level 3.
Level 3.
Level 3.
Okay.
Okay. That's where they have the instructions, the manuals, functional curricula, because some of these are directorates which have got their own training entities within, which is like the combat line, the helicopter line, the transport line, command and control line, and so forth. Now, and then we've got level 4, which is now at the tactical level, which is bases, units, centers, and depots. Technical publications, the standard operating procedures, curriculums, because they also have training responsibilities, and of course, the base strategies. Now, seeing that Air Force Command Post it also generates its own standard operating procedures. Okay. Now, with the problem that we are faced.
Before you
Yes.
go further, just so that I can understand the hierarchy there.
Yes.
Would level 1 be equivalent in terms of public service rankings to a DG, or it's incomparable? Well,
A
maybe in terms
military
of
general is a
responsibility.
military general.
Sorry?
A military general is a military general. There's no equivalence.
I suspected you'd say that. But in terms of responsibility, it would be the same responsibility
DG.
that a DG has. Okay, no,
A5.
that's fine. And then level 2, deputy DG, and maybe level 3 would be chief director.
That's it.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you. Yes.
Chairperson, okay. Then furthermore, is that when you look at this hierarchy, you find that most of the activities are taking place under the guide of the SOPs. I'm saying this because there is no overarching instrument that pulls together
Everything.
including other government departments. It's a gap. And it's unfortunate that at the end of the day, it is those people at level 4 who are exposed. I think that's a finding also in the Board of Inquiry. It is something that we have also since are rectifying. Now, for me, that is the crux of the problem. Nothing else but just that. So, this incident for me is a symptom of an absence of a coordinated interdepartmental arrangement to coordinate and coherently deal with the RSA 05, which is now diplomatic requests. And this is what the interim Air Force instruction, which is the regime that we are currently working under, seeks to address, interim, because there is already within the system a departmental instruction that is being finalized, let me put it that way, under the signature of level 1 and also level 0, from the Minister to the Chief Defense and the Secretary of Defense. But again, it will also create some challenges. This is why we are also engaging with other government departments to ensure that there is an overarching instrument that will deal with such issues to protect level 4, level 3, level 2, so that the entry point for any of these requests must come at the appropriate level.
Well, it may be that what I want to ask you is something that we should deal with later, but let me ask you. It may be that the systems that were in place were not the best that could be put in place. But isn't the position this, that when one looks at what appears to have unfolded here, one is dealing with a situation where nobody can say, I didn't know that it was not right to allow the landing of this aircraft. Isn't the position that when all is said and done, nobody can say, I didn't know that it was wrong? Because if particularly the key people knew that this was not right, and knew that it was not in accordance with, one, the operating procedures and policies, and two, the practices, then they should have said no. And then the whole question is why they didn't say no. Or maybe some of them, some might have said no up to a certain point and then gave in. So therefore, if one is looking at it, it may be that we shouldn't put a lot of emphasis on any inadequacies that might have been there in the systems, because anybody who wanted to do the right thing knew what to do. And if they did they did the right thing and had the courage to do the right thing, this would not have happened. What do you say to that?
Sir, in this space, arrangements are hinged on trust and integrity. Initially, when I tried to categorize the type of requests that come in, when we spoke about the non-military, which 05 is one of them, the environment from where that information is activated, the right information has to come through. Otherwise, it contaminates the whole process. This is why I said there are no checks and balances from the point where that information comes into the Defense Force. We're not even sure as to when it also goes to the other environments as to whether there are those checks and balances. Hence, the necessity for us to have this overarching instrument which will deal with all these issues.
But what do you say to the proposition that on the facts as they seem to have emerged in the report of the Directors General, the Justice Cluster Investigation Team, that at least insofar as we speak about the actual landing of the aircraft, there may be other issues, but that's the main issue. Insofar as that one is concerned, all the key people who had a role to play before the authorization could be given knew that this was not in order. Do you accept that that does emerge, or is your understanding or analysis different?
I go by the findings.
Yes.
I go by the findings.
Yes.
But again, we also have to put everything into context.
Yes, yes.
This request shouldn't have gone through after we had said no.
Yes.
Period.
Exactly, exactly.
That it went through at a different level, well, that is now the reason why we have got this board of inquiry. And I'd like to repeat, we work on trust and integrity. Thank you.
Well, it's a good thing to work on trust and integrity. But the reason why it's necessary to have checks and balances is
Yes.
precisely because
That's it.
sometimes it's not enough to work on trust and integrity. That part I understand, but let's go back to the request. A no was given. You have just said then the request went somewhere else. Is there any doubt in your mind that wherever it went, they knew that this was not in order?
Chair.
Well, you are a leader now in the Defense Force. You have got to come out clearly.
As the Chief of the South African Air Force, I said no. And once we said no, I wouldn't like to second guess as to what informed them to be creative. And
You see, you are also saying they were creative.
no, I'm just in the lack of
No, you see, I guess we must look at the Defense Force as well as DERCO as part of society.
True.
And part of the problem in our society is that it appears we don't have enough numbers of people who will stand firm for what is right in the face of pressure and enticements to corruption, and just stand firm and say it is not right. So we know that some of the people, appeared to have said no.
yes.
But later on, either they gave in to the pressure, or I don't know if they got persuaded. And we know that there are statements that appear to have been made which appear to have been intended to put pressure on them one way or another. But knowing the request that was made, and you said no, it should not be entertained, is there any reason you know of why people who were required to deal with this request in the Air Force at different level, up to the level where it was authorized, do you know of any reason why they wouldn't have clearly seen that this was not in order and it should not be allowed? And to be fair to you, you are free to say, if you don't know it, to say if you haven't looked at the facts sufficiently in regard to what happened at the different stages. But knowing what knowledge and expectation the Air Force has of people at certain levels who are authorized to deal with something like this. So my question is, can there be any doubt that anybody would have known that this request was not correct for purposes of authorizing the landing of this type of aircraft, or an aircraft that was coming with a wedding party?
Sir, from the word go, this shouldn't have been approved at any level. I think that's what also comes out from the Board of Inquiry. That decision was taken. I think that's why specific steps were taken within the Defence Force. I'd like to repeat once again, the findings of the Board of Inquiries, both,
Are in order.
are in order.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe I can just ask this question. Were you shocked when you heard that the aircraft had been allowed to land?
I think that's why I've become bold.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
So yes,
You were shocked.
It took us a, yes,
Yeah.
it took us aback.
Yes, okay.
Just as a follow-up to that shock that you had, under what circumstances does the Chief of Air Force get involved when a foreign aircraft lands into the country, or at least at the Waterkloof base? Are there instances where you get involved, and what are those instances?
Yes, the South African Air Force, through its various structures, gets informed. The officer commanding of the unit, I'm now talking about the Air Force Command
Yes.
post, would then inform the relevant entities. But in this case, because of the following, that the officer commanding of the unit was not available, we were dealing with a crisis. The CENCON officer, Lieutenant Colonel Van Sale,
Yes.
was new, was just brought in. And these were all the things that which shouldn't have been in place. Unfortunately, at that time, it just so happened that this thing came at a time when we were
Yes.
most vulnerable.
Yes. No, my question really relates to, because you're the Chief of the Air Force.
Yes.
I just want to know, ordinarily, do you get involved in these approvals at whatever level of foreign aircrafts, or you don't get involved at all?
Ma'am, this is why I'm saying
Yes.
this procedure is designed to manage activities at level 4 and 3, not at my level. Hence, the need for us, firstly within the Air Force, to overhaul our systems at that time, and to ensure that we have an overarching instrument that also talks to the other government departments.
Yes.
I guess that answer means you don't normally get involved. Because that's the question.
Then,
yeah,
but
at that stage.
at
yeah.
that stage,
you
yes.
did not get
No, no,
involved.
no.
Do you get involved now
Oh, yes, certainly. Oh,
because of what happened?
yes. No. It's
Yeah.
because it's the right thing to do.
Yes, but arising from that incident.
Remember, we
which may
spoke
have
about there were
opened your-
deficiencies within the,
Yes.
the system at that time.
Yes.
Because, truly speaking, we were not really configured to do what we're doing at that time.
Okay.
You understand? So, yes, we're doing this, but
Yeah.
we're not properly configured.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, let me ask you about your feeling or reaction to the incident. When Mr. Ramatloti gave evidence here, the former Minister of Mineral Resources, he gave his description of how he felt about his reaction to the incident. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but what the impression that I gained from whatever words he used was that it was such a huge shock to learn that effectively a private aircraft had been allowed to land at Waterkloof. If I put it in my own words, I think whatever words he used gave me the impression that he was saying this was an abomination. Now, you being high up in the military, Chief of the Air Force, what was your reaction? What was your feeling about this commercial aircraft being allowed to land at Waterkloof? How bad was this thing to a leader of the army of the country, to somebody high up in the leadership of the army of the country?
This is totally unacceptable. This hurt me personally. This was something that I never did imagine that it could happen. It was an unfortunate situation. As a commander of that entity, this, under normal circumstances, would have required, of course, a board of inquiry, of which we immediately instituted a preliminary investigation within the South African Air Force. The preliminary is a short, intensive investigation. And of course, it did hurt the image of the Defense Force and of the country. Hence, the rapid reaction of the Chief of the South African National Defense Force in instituting the Board of Inquiry at his level, and then the security cluster immediately after that. This just shows the importance the various government departments attached to this incident. I repeat again, it is for this reason that we are looking and wargaming the new instruction, the overarching instruction, because when you deal with so many government departments at level 4 that I spoke of, where you're dealing with border police, customs, immigration, Department of Health, SARS, Department of Agriculture, Natural Conservation, the military police, counterintelligence, and so forth. And also DERCO. This is a huge number of departments that at level 4, you are dealing with those people. It shouldn't be the case. The entry point should be at the right level. And this interdepartmental instrument seeks to address just that.
You would say this is something that should never, ever happen again.
Yes. No, it shouldn't happen. Never.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Just on the SOPs that you've put up, General, I see if we have a look at paragraph 5, page 5, paragraph 5 of the standard operating procedures.
Is it the interim?
No, sorry, we're looking at this.
The
Double F10.
double F10.
Yes. Yes, page 5.
Double F10, page 5.
Yes.
Okay, page 5. Yes.
Under divider 2.
Yes.
Okay, under divider 2.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe we should start with paragraph 2.
Paragraph 2.
Paragraph 2, yes, those SOPs, they place the responsibility of issuing of the overflight and landing authorities. They make it the responsibility of the flight center situated in the operational complex
Yes.
under the administrative command and functional command of the AFCP senior controller.
That's it.
Would that be level 4?
That is now level 3.
That is level 3.
Level 3.
All right. And then it tells us...
Because remember, level
sorry.
3 it's okay. It's level 3.
It is level 3. Okay, thank you. And then it then tells us in paragraph 4 and 5 about the process that must be followed. But what I would like us to talk about is paragraph 5, where it says the request for the issuing of an overflight and landing authority can be divided into 2 types of authority. One, an RSA 05, International Authority. This is relevant to what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, this authority is issued to foreign military or government-owned or chartered aircraft or to RSA-registered aircraft chartered for government purposes, crossing the RSA international boundaries, and is divided into 3 categories. So if one looks at the circumstances on the Waterkloof request,
Yes, ma'am.
being a wedding party, coming back to the question that the chairperson had asked you, that without looking at the loopholes, any official knowing exactly what is it that's required would know that that doesn't fit. It doesn't fit within that requirement.
Yes.
Yes,
That's if the correct information was given from the word go.
yes.
So if there was no mention of ministers, no
Yes.
mention of whoever, you understand?
Yes. Now, supposing that really there was 1 or 2 ministers that were carried on this aircraft, but if one takes the evidence of Mr. Makila this morning, that there was never any protocol, no one to meet and greet, there was no meetings within the stakeholders to deal with how we're going to deal with this, where are they going to be accommodated. So even if there was a mention of ministers, if one had looked carefully at the request itself, one would have found that given the process that has to be followed, it was not possible that there would have been ministers on that aircraft. Or am I simply stretching it too far?
No, you're correct.
Yes.
You're correct. Apart from that, there would have been an interdepartmental meeting which informs all the relevant parties of what is happening, who needs to do what,
Yes.
and so forth.
Yes.
And from what I could deduce from the 2 boards of inquiry, that never took place.
Yes. Thank you.
And the moment it was an RSA 05, that conveyed the impression that there would be a head of state or deputy head of state
A minister,
or a minister.
Of a
And
particular level.
Yes, and
Yes.
anyone filling in and making it an RS 05 not knowing that, was aware that they were making a misrepresentation.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, thank you. And you've told the chairperson that when you heard about this, you were shocked, but I would like to know, when did you actually get to know about the landing? Was it a day after the landing, or was it a week after the landing? When exactly did you get to know about it?
On the very same day.
Yes. And then, as we've been told, because they would have been given a
Yes,
clearance.
then what happened was that
Yes.
we ran to the,
You immediately wanted to know, what's that?
I was in the meeting,
Yes.
and then I see that I had a lot of missed calls. I said, okay, now what's happening? Check that, okay. Check your TV, you go check the TV, and we saw what was happening.
Yes. And they were, this aircraft was supposed to return on the 3rd of May. So now it has landed at Waterkloof, but we know that it didn't leave from Waterkloof to India. It had to go to OR Tambo. Did you have any dealings with that process? After then you discovered that it had landed in the manner in which it did. What steps did you take to make sure that it does not leave out of Waterkloof again?
No, we immediately indicated that that aircraft must be repositioned outside the Air Force bases.
Yes. And that instruction would have been given to?
To my, at that time, to the General Officer Commanding of the Air Force.
Yes. And that's how it
That's-
was moved to OR Tambo?
Yes, of course, and then the staff that were dealing with it
Yes.
did the necessary activities to make sure that
Yes.
it was repositioned. Yes.
Okay. Did you at any stage make contact with Captain Ketty from India, High Commissioner in India, who was the one who was liaising with, in fact, sent directly correspondence to the level 4 officials? There is that correspondence, it's from Captain Ketty.
To me,
No, not to you. I just want to
okay.
know, even if it was not him,
yes.
did you try and establish from the Indian High Commission as to how did this happen? You know, what procedures did you follow before you allowed this to happen?
Ma'am, immediately after we got wind of this, that's when we initiated, as I said, our BOI.
The bottom, okay.
Sorry, our internal,
The Board of Inquiry,
what do they call it?
the preliminary investigation.
Preliminary investigation, the
Yes.
preliminary investigation, yes. That's what we initiated. And then immediately after that, the chief of the Defense Force initiated the Board of Inquiry,
Yes.
which is now more, it's at a higher level, whereby I was also a subject of that
Subject of-
investigation.
All right.
Yes.
But you didn't make contact with the Indian authorities? Okay, thank you.
You may have shaken your head, but
No.
you must articulate your response so that it will be recorded.
I don't recommend.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I also forgot to ask him to do that. Maybe just, I'm not sure whether this diagram that you have
Yes, ma'am.
at page, under divider 4, you have the South African Air Force, Interim Air Force Instruction, under 4, and then at page 47 of the same
Yes, ma'am.
document, you have a diagram there.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not sure whether you would want to talk to it, or do you think it's covered by the explanation that
It's
you've
covered
given?
by the explanation.
You gave
Yes, ma'am.
earlier.
Yes, it's covered by the explanation.
Yes.
Remember, this is just interim.
Yes.
I think I did also share with you a matrix which speaks to the evolution of the overflight and clearance instructions from 2007 2014, 2018, 2019.
Yes.
Yes, so you can, this is work in progress. And then we're
perfect.
still awaiting to present this
All right.
to the Plenary Defense Staff Council
Okay.
for approval.
And it is also
And then
just...
I will get then the go-ahead and further guidelines from the Chief of the South African National Defense Force and the Secretary of Defense before it is promulgated.
Okay.
Okay, so let me understand.
Yes.
Is that the document at page 27?
The one which I'm speaking to, the
That
matrix.
you're talking, yeah.
Page 27. Which
Under
divider?
divider 4.
Under
Yes.
divider 4.
Uh-huh.
Page 27.
The one marked
The one
South
saying
African...
South African Air Force
Air Force.
Interim
Yes,
Air Force
yes, yes,
Instruction.
yes, yes.
That's the document you're talking about.
That's the interim instruction.
Interims,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Does it represent some of the steps that the Air Force, indeed the Defense Force, has taken subsequent to this
Yes.
incident
Yes,
to
it
try
has.
and address whatever weaknesses may have been
Yes.
identified?
Yes, and also to make sure that the entry level
Yes.
for such requests is
Yes.
at the correct
Yeah.
level, yes.
O-
The
okay.
entry point, sorry, is at the correct
At the current level.
Yes.
And you are saying it's not the final version
It's not the
yet.
final version.
It's not the approved version as yet.
Yes, but it is approved by me at my level.
Yes, yes. So the idea is just to show the commission what work is being undertaken to try and address some of the weaknesses identified.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
So that's within the, yes, within the Air Force.
Yes. Thank you.
But subsequently, okay, I think I will leave it at that.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that it will still go through other levels for final approval.
Exactly.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then I think we've covered everything in your statement. Let me just double check that I haven't left out anything. Into that. Oh, and maybe just to confirm, I'm sorry, General, just to confirm that you made the statement before the Board of Inquiry. General Mgwebi has already made
Yes.
mention of that. That will be in Exhibit FF4,
Yes, ma'am.
and it will just identify that statement. It appears from page 1 of that bundle.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And it is in line with your evidence today on how the landing happened
Yes, ma'am.
and the irregularities that you pointed out. That goes up to page 22.
22. Yes, ma'am.
And do you see that, is that your signature there?
That is my signature, ma'am.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, unless I've missed something, or unless I've missed this, although you provided us with this interim instruction, you haven't highlighted some of the new suggestions. I may have missed it, to say in the past this is what would happen, but in terms of this proposed new instruction, this is what would be different.
I can go through that, sir.
Sorry?
I can go through that.
Please do that, yeah.
Thank you.
Chair, it is for that reason that I did share this matrix to show the evolution of where we were, 2007. Then we had a draft DOD, 2014. In 2007, which was an SOP at the Air Force Command Post, this was at level 4, as I indicated. Wrong level.
That is where the request would come in.
Was, you should, yes.
At that time,
at
yes.
that time.
As well as 2013?
And the nodal point at that point was Air Force Command Post. And then subsequently to that, we had the nodal point being Chief Defense Intelligence. The approval was Chief Defense Intelligence, acronym I'll use CDI. And then the instruction was CAF, which is Chief of the Air Force. The execution was then, at that time, was CAF, but in brackets, Air Force Command Post. That is the execution. And then it still remains the same in 14, in 18, and
19.
and into the future, because that's the execution point. And then the accounting authority, 2014, it was not addressed, but the controlling authority at that time, it was in the draft, it was SecDef. In the previous one, 2007, that was not the case. Responsible authority, 2007, it was not there. 2014, it was included. In the draft, it is included, but this time authority is now within the operational, at the operational level of my environment. That is the Chief of Air Staff Operations. Now is going to be now a Major General. It's a Lieutenant General, Major General, who will now be responsible for the operational aspect of it. Who reports directly to me, and then executing authority remains the same, but in 2007 it was not there. Decision makers, 2007 it was not there. In 2014 draft, it was CDI and CAF. In the interim, it was suggested that it should be the MOD, Ministry of Defense, but was subsequently changed, and it's Chief of Defense and Chief of the Air Force, and all these updates are done in either the Military Command Council or the Plenary Defense Staff Council, in those fora. Disapproval criteria, which is very important. It was not there in 2007, it was not there in 2014, but it was included in 2018 and also the 2019 version. The financial implication, which is also equally important, it was not there in the 2007 document. 2014, yes, it is. It was not there. In the 2018, it was included, and also in the 2019. We go further in terms of the interdepartmental arrangement. 2014, that's when it was cited that it should be included. It was not there in 2007. In 2014, 18, it was included, but it was then withdrawn because, remember, the DODI, it is a departmental instrument. So there has to be something that actually, which is overarching, which includes all the other government departments. And then we had the processes. In 2007, it was just the internal processes, nothing that had to do with the external processes. In 2014, we had the CDI was in the loop. CAF executes. In 2018, in the interim was MOD receives the approvals, CSNDF instructs, CDI recommends, and CAF executes. That was subsequently changed, and then there is a for the DODI, the suggestion is CDI receives, investigates, approves, and then informs the MOD and CSNDF. Now, once that is done, it then closes all loops. We all are now mandated. We know exactly who does what, and the level 4 is no longer exposed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then maybe I need to put this question to you because it was put to Mr. Nchisi, that now, having done this, the members of your staff not following what the processes that were there that ought to have been followed, but then Major Nchisi, who was not a major at the time, gets promoted. Then I just want to understand, would you have been involved in that promotion and recommended his promotion to a major position? And if so, why, in the light of what had happened?
Ma'am, the major was charged. And after that, his career continues. Unless you're suggesting that, seeing that he had, there were some negative findings on him, he shouldn't be promoted or he shouldn't undergo further development and so forth. I'd also like to put it on record here that Major, or the warrant officer at that time, if I remember well, he was being prepared to be attached to DERCO. Because at that time we did sense that there was a problem. Hence, at the level of a warrant officer, he was, that was part of his career plans, that he would get the training and after that get deployed to DERCO to ensure that there is smooth operations between us and DERCO. What we're talking about here is the ideal. When things start happening, especially when there are tight schedules to meet, you need to have someone who understands what's happening from the Air Force side and also from the DERCO side. So we took that initiative to say, okay, we're going to train this gentleman, and then after that, we send him to DERCO. That was our plan. That was in our plans.
Okay. Thank you.
Which major was that? I missed that question.
That's Major Nchisi.
GC?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
In the light of you being Chief of the Air Force, just want to indicate that I'm told that the investigators of the Commission and the legal team have been trying to get a certain recording of the conversation between, I think, Ambassador Kolwane,
between Ambassador Kolwane and Lieutenant Colonel Anderson and Ambassador Kolwane and Warrant Officer Nchisi at the time.
Yes, and that at a certain stage, State Security Agency had promised to make sure it was finished to the Commission by last Friday, I think. But it seems that there was also some indication it could be finished on Monday,
Yes.
or I might have my facts not right there, but it was promised, and it is still not here. I don't know what role, if any, the Defence Force has or may have and power in making sure that we get it. So I just want to alert you to this and say Ms. Norman could speak to you after this and give you more and more information.
We will
and
advise
ask you to
accordingly.
assist. I would like, we aim to finish the witnesses that were lined up for this session in regard to Waterkloof early next week.
Yes.
And I would like that, if possible, the commission could have it by tomorrow to prepare for next week. So if there is any chance that you could
We will endeavor
facilitate
to
that,
assist.
you
Sure.
try and do that, yeah. No, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Shane.
And
Yes,
Chairperson,
yes.
I must state this, that within the South African Air Force, so is within the South African National Defence Force, we have dedicated people, people who go out of their way to make things happen, people who have taken an oath to serve this country, and if needs be, to die for this country. These are the men and women who the ordinary person does not see them going about their tasks on a day-to-day basis. Serving our people on the trying to mend the borders, assisting other government departments. As you can see, what the Army has been doing in the Vaal area, what the medical health system, the medical health arm of service has been doing when nationally the medical health service puts tools down. The Air Force, when they are called upon to do rescues in mountains, at sea, and the Navy too. And in most cases, they're not adequately appreciated. They operate under very difficult circumstances with a dwindling budget, and they're expected to do more. And one of our tasks as commanders is to ensure that we support state departments for the purpose of social economic upliftment. It's not seen, we don't talk about it, but we do it. Not long ago, last week, we were involved in KZN. We had a 2-week boot camp, summer school, with students from grade 10, 11, 12, working with the Department of Education, helping them with maths and science, and so forth. And when things go bad, this is your first line of defense, and also probably your last line of defense. Yes, we do have gaps in our processes and so forth. This does not necessarily say that all is wrong in the Defence Force or whatever it is. We are trying our level best under the circumstances. And we plead that the Defence Force must be looked upon differently. Yes, we've got our challenges. Don't forget, we are as old as this democracy. We are still in transition. We have issues of transformation, not transformation in terms of black and white, transforming the systems and so forth. Yes, there are going to be gaps. Yes, we need to make sure that we have sufficient funds to send people to train adequately. We need to overhaul the systems that we have to be in line with our today's requirements. We also need that support. We also need that space. Yes, what happened is something that should never happen again. But we also need the support of the men and women on the streets, the people that we defend, the people that we, together with the police, try and ensure that they are safe. We need their support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant General Msimang. I can tell you that my own impression is that the South African National Defence Force enjoys a lot of support from society, the population. And I do not think that most people would simply by knowing that some incident happened that shouldn't have happened, that they would then say, forget about this defense force. That's not my impression. But as you say, the defense force, many people don't see it on a daily basis. But my own impression is that many people appreciate the fact that they know it is there and that it is there for them to defend them. So my own impression is that the people might or might not show as much appreciation as you might have wished for, but my own impression is that it is supported, it is loved. That's my own impression.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. But thank you very much once again for having come forward to help the Commission understand what happened. And I doubt that anybody would apply for leave to cross-examine you. But if that does happen, we will ask you to come back again. But thank you very much, and you are excused.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you.
Very much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes the business of the
For
day.
today.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, and then on Monday we'll start at 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Do we have Ambassador Kolwane for Monday only, or are there more?
There is also, I've just been told that Ambassador Machila has also arrived. Yes, we would want to lead him so that they can go back early in the week if possible.
Yes.
Yes.
And then for Tuesday?
For Tuesday, I think those are.
Those
I
are
think
the last two.
Those would be
now.
the last for now. Yes, that is
For
correct.
now.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. We are going to adjourn then for the day, and then we'll start at 10 on Monday. We adjourn.
Thank you, Chair.